The phone has a triple camera system on the back, but the main 108 megapixels shooter is the only one worth using. The 2 megapixel depth sensor and the 2 megapixels macro camera are pretty much useless, and the lack of an ultra-wide camera is a huge disappointment. The main camera takes decent photos in the daylight. The level of detail is good, but the images are a bit over-sharpened. The colors are also good, and the dynamic range is decent with the HDR enabled. But the images look more natural with the HDR disabled. In low light, the sensor struggles a bit. Shadow regions in even well-lit images can have noise and noise reduction artifacts. The 3x lossless zoom feature is interesting. It looks pretty good in terms of detail reproduction, but as a photographer I can honestly say that calling the 3x digital zoom lossless is a bit misleading. It's really just cropping into the full 108 megapixels picture, but it's still not too bad for a digital zoom. Phones with true lossless zoom have optical zoom, like for example Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra with its 2 telephoto lenses, or Xiaomi 13. Those phones have lossless zoom, but the Note CE3 Lite definitely does not. It's a bit misleading, but it's still a very capable camera for the price. Here we have 3 different phones taking the same photo, the CE3 Lite and the Xiaomi 12T, both mid-rangers with the same 108 megapixel sensor. All these photos look great, but when you zoom in, you can see the tiny details start to bleed into each other. However, the OnePlus doesn't lag far behind. It's still a great camera, especially for the price. The macro camera is as bad as you would expect. Images are dark, noisy and have poor colors. The fixed focus is difficult to use, and the wide nature of the lens means you have to get really close to the subject. Video performance on the CE3 Lite is pretty forgettable. You're limited to a maximum of 1080 pixels at 30 frames per second, and there's no optical image stabilization. The digital stabilization does its best, but it's not great and it adds artifacts. For comparison, the digital stabilization on the CE3 Lite doesn't look as good as the optical stabilization on the new Xiaomi 13. It also adds visible artifacts every now and then. The level of detail is mediocre and the dynamic range is subpar. The colors are the only good thing about the image quality, but even those get worse when the light levels go down. As you can see, this is a low light footage recorded simultaneously with the 2023 OnePlus and the 2019 iPhone 11, which also has optical stabilization on board. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. The 16 megapixel front-facing camera takes adequate selfie shots, but in some lighting conditions they can be a bit washed out. Portrait selfies produce that artificial creamy bouquet, which is nice. And there are few effects that you can apply to your selfies, like desaturating the background and coloring the main subject. It looks really good. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys on the next one.